the Retro Network podcast.
Kind of like Home Alone mixed with The Hangover.
Pause, timeout. All right, I'm doing the Zach Morris thing.
Yes.
The flagship show for the Retro Network podcast channel.
We've got some fun stuff in this episode.
Man, that's like listening to classic Guns N' Roses.
Even G.I. Joe fans are like, WTF.
Get ready for the latest pop culture news.
We've got plenty of recurrent events headlines to get to.
Man, can you imagine getting a service that streamed all these old Nickelodeon shows?
Interviews.
Let me just start out by asking you, what was your Batman experience when it first came out?
Yeah, summer of '89, I was very excited. I was a comic book reader.
And topical discussions on all that stuff we grew up with and just can't leave in the past.
There's so many great memories that I have as a kid, just begging mom to go to the department store.
We were the target audience for Sears catalogs. I remember getting them and mom sitting down at the kitchen table and getting on the telephone and making her orders.
How have you not watched The Matrix?
When I went to the movies, I was trying to go watch a sensitive movie, the ones where you could put your arm around your date.
And now, here are your hosts for the Retro Network podcast, Jason.
I like to have pictures with my words.
And Mickey.
I ain't farting on no snare drum. Until next week, everybody, when Jason ain't going to be here and we're going to have a hell of a time, 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 a hell of a time. That's right. Welcome to the jungle. Welcome to the Retro Network podcast, the flagship, or the mothership, if you will, of the Retro Network. I am your host, the boss, the big shot. Heck, I've even been called the devil by some people. That's right, you got Mickey here with you, and as you may have guessed or already knew, Jason isn't here this week. And as the old saying goes, when the cat's away, the mice will play. But mice always have more fun when they've got somebody to get in mischief with, and I've got a fun partner to help me do just that this week. You've heard him on here before. You know him. You love him. Heck, we all love him. The godfather of retro, Mr. Tony Grate from RetroDaze. Tony, how are you, my friend?
I don't know what you're talking about, Mick. You've got Jason here, just like always, and I can prove it. There's my Trapper Keeper opening up.
It is Jason.
I just got in here from going corning, and I've actually got 27 pages of notes here that I'm going through, each one with a picture. Each line has a picture with it, because as you know, I do like pictures with my words. Let's get this going.
Holy crap, you are Jason.
That's right.
Unfortunately for most people, Jason's got a lot of fans. He is off making a personal appearance for TRN this weekend and could not join us. But it's always great to spend time waxing nostalgic with you. And you and we go back several years now, and we've had a lot of conversations and stuff. So this shouldn't be much different. And we know what each other are into, so this should flow pretty naturally.
Yeah, I believe so. And, like you said, we'll be taking this over and showing Jason what can be done when you set Mick free on the internet.
For better or worse, we're going to see what happens today.
That's right.
Well, you were on, I don't know, it's been over a month ago, I guess. What all have you had going on since then?
Since then, mostly just been, as far as hobbies go, things that this audience would be interested in. Working on that RD's Retro Detention and putting together episodes for that. And of course, you got Halloween coming up, so we've been working on lots of things for that. Working on a Halloween episode, the Halloween special, and then mostly just going around visiting other sites and reading Halloween content from the Retro Network, from wherever else I can get it, try and just get in the Halloween spirit. So,
well, I want to talk about the Halloween special in just a second, but first, you said it was Halloween. I have seen pictures of you and the family with group-themed costumes. Have you got anything like that going on this year?
Yeah, that's something we try to stick to, and actually, we had a theme, which was going to be The Office this year. But we changed our minds almost when it was too late, and decided to go with the Avengers. So I'm going to be Doctor Strange.
Oh.
And, I think the wife, she's kind of went back and forth between Black Widow but now I think it's Ronan. She's going to go with what Hawkeye ends up becoming, Ronan. So.
Well, what about the kiddos? Who are they going to be?
Well, my daughter's going to be Scarlet Witch, and my youngest is going to be Rocket. He's got the mask that actually the mouth moves on. It looks pretty neat. So then I think my one son, he's going to be Spider-Man, and the other Iron Man. So.
Well, that's pretty cool.
I'm going to have the whole gang, the whole Avengers are going to be assembled here in my house.
I used to try to get my kids last year to do a group theme, but they weren't into it. I was wanting to do Smokey and the Bandit, but I couldn't find anybody. I wanted my youngest one where she was short to be Little Enos, but she had no interest in that.
That's too bad. It would have been pretty entertaining.
Well, who were you going to be if you had done the Office idea? Which character were you going to be?
Well, that's a good story. I'm glad you asked that because for the longest time, my wife was and my kids had decided that since we were going to be Office characters, that they were really going to make it humorous and change genders. So I was going to be Pam.
Oh, wow.
My wife was going to be Jim, and I did not want to be Pam. I was like, I do not want to spend trick or treat walking around in women's clothes. I mean, more power to somebody else who wants to do that, but I do not. And so I did everything in my power to talk my way out of that. Well,
it's too long of a story to tell here, but I have spent a night in women's clothes, and you are right. You don't want to do that. So,
yeah, I was thinking, this is not my ideal way to go trick-or-treating. Not that it's for me, but I do like to get some enjoyment out of it, taking them trick-or-treating. So
well, I guess this year, if I get to do anything with the kids for Halloween, I won't be in a costume. I think I'm kind of obligated at this point to wear my ugly Halloween sweater everywhere I go. Well,
I actually purchased mine thanks to your guys' link. And I'm planning on wearing mine. It's a Beetlejuice. We have the martial arts center where my son takes karate. They have a Halloween party every year, and I'm going to be wearing my Beetlejuice sweater there. That's going to be my costume there. So,
I never was a big fan of the Beetlejuice movie, but when the opportunity came from Halloween Costumes to do the ugly sweater promotion, that Beetlejuice sweater really jumped out at me, and I almost picked it, but I picked the one I did where it's got all the different Halloween designs on it because it looked like and reminded me of the Castlevania video game, which is one of my favorites. And so I was like, yeah, that's the one for me. So that's the one I went with.
Good.
And we'll tell everybody else here in a little while how they can get their ugly Halloween sweater. It's not this high up on Jason's run sheet. People who listen to the show, I make jokes all the time about Jason's notes. Even when he's not here, he created the notes for today's show.
And that was obvious, but when I was looking through it, I thought, unless Mick has just thoroughly learned Jason's ways of creating show notes, then Jason created these notes.
Oh, yeah. He set us up. Oh, but you know what? I've got my hand all over them, too. There's a few things that I've put in the notes that are not on your copy, but you'll be just fine with it. And there's a few things that we just may not cover on his notes, whether he likes it or not.
That's
today.
Right.
I've been in the full Halloween spirit, but my attention got diverted at the beginning of the week when I found out that McDonald's has the McRib back now. So I have not had an opportunity yet to go get one, but it's been on my brain every day since I seen that.
Yeah, I drove through the drive-through this morning and saw the sign out there that the McRib was back. So I'll be picking one up my next trip through there.
That's I guess a current item, but of all the things McDonald's sells, that is one of the ones I associate my brain most with nostalgia, just because it's, I guess, where it's always just a limited time thing every year. and you miss it all year, and your mind builds it up bigger than it is. And that goes back for me for years and years and years to when I was a kid. You look forward to the McRib coming back. So kudos to them for continuing that tradition.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the McRib, and anytime it shows back up, I at least look at it one time. It's not on my diet, but, but I'll stray from that whenever the McRib shows up.
Yeah, and I'm still searching for those Pringles roasted turkey flavored chips I mentioned last week on the show. They've still not made it to my area yet, but I'm hoping, and I'm going to let everybody know like I did last week. If you find them in your area and you want to do me a solid, pick them up. I'll pay you for them. I'll pay the shipping, and I'll throw something else in to make it worth your time, people. If you're listening and you find them, hit me up.
The whole Thanksgiving dinner flavor.
Well, yeah, I don't know if they're going to do that again this year, but they've put out the full-size can of the roasted turkey flavor, so I'll settle for that if nothing else.
I'll have to give those a try if I ever come across them.
Well, Jason might kick me in the hind end if we don't get on and do what he wants us to do here. So today, just let everybody know we've got what I think is going to be a fun show. Tony and I, we talked about it in the Time Machine, which is sponsored by RetroDaze. We're going to be talking about some of our favorite Halloween specials, television events, and things centered around Halloween. But first, let's get some announcements out of the way. You can stop by our Patreon page, patreon.com/The Retro Network, or you can find the link at the top of the page over at theretronetwork.com. And, you know, people hear Patreon. Don't let the fact that it's a Patreon page dissuade you from visiting, because not everything over there is locked behind a paywall. We got some fun stuff for everybody, not just supporters of the network. And Jason said that we're going to have a new Outtakes and Stories podcast coming soon. Those are, I think, from our Patreon supporters we have, or some of the highlights of the Patreon page. I know I like listening to it and thinking, why did he cut that out of the regular show? That's gold. You know?
There's some good stuff, yeah.
Yeah. You'll get to hear us taking a whole lot of drinks and coughing and sneezing and being interrupted. And so it's a fun show. But, you know, we're putting some stuff over there on Patreon. Jason and I, we've been working on. We're still formulating ideas for new exclusive content, most likely towards the beginning of the new year. A new Patreon exclusive podcast we're going to be doing. Of course, like I said, you got the outtakes and the gag reel pods. We put some behind the scenes stuff out there for folks to see, and some more. Like this past week, I was tracking down some old Halloween related newspaper ads. I don't know if you saw those over there or not, but ads where like malls were running these specials, come out and meet the Ghostbusters or this and that. So coloring contest featuring the Monster Cereals characters. I've been putting some of that stuff up there. But we know times are tight. So we try to give people more bang for their buck if they're supporting what we're doing here at the Retro Network. We're going to give you what you can. Man, speaking of times being tight, just earlier this week, like on Tuesday, I went to sell some blood. But all the people that were interested in was asking, whose blood is this and how'd you get it? I'm thinking, do you want it or not? I mean, give me the money.
They get a little picky about where it comes from.
Yeah, they want this documentation and, you know.
Yeah, right.
Well, so I have to come up with another idea. I guess it was better than going to the sperm bank with some other people's donations.
Yeah, right.
Well, anyway, coming up, we got the TRN Time Machine sponsored by RetroDaze, and Tony here, and he'll tell us more about that when we get there. We're going to be talking about our Halloween specials. But first, as Jason says, it's time for the Recurrent Events. This week's Recurrent Events is sponsored by HalloweenCostumes.com, and right now you can buy one item at their site and get another one at 30% off through October 19th. Or you can use our exclusive TRN promo link that they set us up with for, you know, the TRN community and save 15% off your entire order from now through October 31st. And both links for that will be posted in the show notes over at theretronetwork.com. So, Tony, are you ready to kick the tires and light the fires on this thing?
I am. Let's do it.
All right. We'll make it official. We're starting the actual part of the podcast now. We're starting with some movie news. And Jason put this in here just for you and I think. Your friend and mine, He-Man. Some He-Man news. Sony may shop their Masters of the Universe movie to Netflix. Scheduled for release in March 2021, sources tell The Hollywood Reporter that studio chairman Tom Rothman is exploring the prospect of getting risk-free cash for the pricey project by making it for Netflix instead. A studio source says talks are preliminary, but such a deal would make Sony the next studio after Paramount to start making movies belonging exclusively to, or almost exclusively to, Netflix. With the new She-Ra series and Kevin Smith's upcoming anime series on Netflix, wouldn't this be a win-win for both Sony and Netflix?
Well, that's a good question. I think when I first heard that, I was disappointed. I think because, a theater release, that's a lot bigger deal than a Netflix release. But on the other hand, Netflix has handled some properties that I personally had, a lot of invested in that I cared about a lot. Dark Crystal, few others that I enjoyed as a kid, and they, especially the Dark Crystal, was handled really well. So if they go this route with Masters of the Universe, I think there's a good chance that they will produce something that is worth watching and that pays homage to the original, in a good way. But yeah, there's disappointment in that. You may not see it in the theater like with the 1987 film. We'll see.
Yeah, that's one that it may drag me back to the theater for a movie if it were to get the major motion release. But what movies, I can't speak for all the Netflix movies because I've not watched them all, but the ones I have, stuff like The Highwayman with Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson, was done exceptionally well. And I'm really looking forward to watching The Irishman. And, they got really close with The Irishman to doing a major theater release, but it seems like the stepping stone to that has always been how quickly are the studios willing to let it go on Netflix. And Netflix's position is we want it to drop as soon as possible. Netflix always wants to drop it on Netflix and the theaters at the same day. And you can understand the theaters and the studios' concern with that is, well, why would they come pay the theater prices if they can stay home and watch it the same day on Netflix? So I think at some point we may get to where they find that compromise where it may have a 2 or 3 week run in theaters and then drop on Netflix. But for now, it'll be interesting to keep an eye on this story because I'm planning on dropping Netflix next month. But that's something that that's something that would bring me back, though, if that was the case. So
yeah, I'm wondering with all the recent news of different streaming services and what they're going to be offering, what will come of Netflix here in the next few months and into the next year. Hopefully they're able to create enough original content to stay relevant.
Right. And this story kind of ties into the narrative I've been preaching about, how content is king right now. And Netflix, and it looks like they need to be out working hard to get stuff just like this He-Man movie. That and because of what I just said, I'm planning on dropping it, but something like that would keep me interested and make it worth me keeping Netflix. So I'd say we're going to see more of that, but I believe we'll start seeing not just Netflix, but a whole bidding war for stuff like this. I believe the producers and the movie studios are really going to win from this situation to where they can put it to the highest bidder. Hey, if you want it for your service, name your price. If not, we're taking it to the theaters and you can get it later. And I believe there's going to be some big money spent on this entertainment medium here in the next year or two.
Yeah, if they can pursue a similar strategy here with what it seems like they're going to end up with acquiring, the Masters Universe property in order to produce this this movie, they can do a similar thing with other properties that are meaningful to our age group. Then our age group will stick around. Our demographic will stick around long enough to enjoy those productions. But if they go the route where they're just grabbing whatever is in syndication or old series and just putting that up, then they may have to end up dropping their price. If they're just picking up shows and then they leave. It seems like everything that they get is gone before I can watch it.
You're telling me.
Of course, I get to things a little quicker than you do. You're still, what, are you in 97 yet?
No, I've not made it quite that far yet.
Okay. But when you get there, let me know. There's some good movies I may want to direct you to.
Well, keeping up with the streaming news, there's a new channel available on Roku right now, the Halloween channel. It offers an impressive 300 horror-filled B-movies, straight-to-video titles, and cult classics. It's your one-stop horror destination this Halloween. Now, it says cult classics, but some of the titles include Alice in Deathland, The Dead Don't Scream, and my favorite, President Wolfman. Are you familiar with any of these film festival winners that I just named off?
I'm not, but man, just the titles alone, I have to get in on what these are. I have to see what these are.
Well, I haven't got a chance to browse the channel yet. I'm going to try to do that this afternoon and see what all is actually on there, because one would have to think when Jason put these notes together that if there were any more mainstream movies to list, he would, you know, what am I saying? I put this note in here. Yeah, never mind. No, these were the best things that were on there.
Now you can't even tell the difference between your notes and his. See,
I know.
You're picking up on how he does things.
He sent me a message, hey, add this to the news, the Roku channel. I've done a little research and come up with a paragraph for it. Anyway, moving on. Following in the steps of Voodoo, YouTube has expanded its library of free movies with advertising, of course. And some retro titles include The Terminator, Dances with Wolves, Rain Man, Meatballs, Delirious. Oh my gosh, they got Over the Top. I didn't pay attention to that. Earth Girls Are Easy, Thelma and Louise, and Dances with Wolves.
I had noticed that Earth Girls Are Easy was free on there. It's maybe been a month or two ago. And I was trying to put together some compilations of some films and trying to find clips to see if, YouTube would allow the clips of those films to be uploaded. And I noticed all these free movies from my youth that were available on there. And I thought, wonder why they've gone this route, or if they're planning on doing more of this, and maybe more will be down the road. It sounds like something that they're going to try and dip their hand into and see how it goes.
Well, and I don't know why they wouldn't, because they're showing the advertising, and I'm sure it's probably one of the deals. These are older movies. The deal is probably to the effect that they're not having to pay rights for the movies, and they're probably splitting the ad revenue coming in with them and whoever owns the rights. So it seems like it's a win-win.
Yeah, I would say if they can work out a deal where the ad revenue is benefiting them and whichever company produced the movie, then I don't see why they couldn't generate a lot of revenue just doing that.
Yeah, hey YouTube, if you're looking for a free movie, go out and get the rights to Body Slam. I'm dying to watch that thing again.
Any wrestling film you'll take, right?
Well, no, not any of them. Ready to Rumble can stay hidden wherever it's been for the last 20 years.
They can just leave it under whatever rock it's at the moment.
Yeah. All right, more streaming news. The Netflix premiere of Green Eggs and Ham. You know what? That one's gone. We're moving on.
What do you got against Green Eggs and Ham?
It's just we got all this other stuff to talk about. We don't need to talk about Green Eggs and Ham. Tubi. Jason and I are big fans of the Tubi app. They're looking to begin a new round of funding for 2020 programming in the amount of $150 million. Man, it takes a lot to put on a free app, don't it? Since launching in 2014, Tubi has drawn the attention of many investors, raising over $35 million last year and receiving a $25 million credit line earlier this year. In January, Tubi leadership announced they would be investing $100 million in bringing content to their platform and expanding to a global audience in 2019. So they've raised $35 million last year, and received a $25 million credit line for $60 million. And this year they're looking for more than twice that, $150 million. They must be planning on trying to make a big splash in the streaming wars with that kind of increase in dollars they're looking for.
Well, I would like to know who they went to get that $25 million credit line, because I could use a little bit of that. Whoever's wishing to dole that out, hey, I'd love to have a little bit of that myself. On the subject of Tubi, it's not something that I have actually tried yet.
Oh, really?
Is it something available on Roku smartphone?
It is.
Okay.
It is available on, of course, now I can only really compare it to Roku because that's what I have. But you can also watch online at Tubi.tv, and they have a phone app. And what I like best about it, and you've probably heard us talk about, is the way they curate their sections. It's like it's done by a human and not by some algorithm. So when it says retro favorites or something, you're browsing through there and you're like G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers, and then all these 80s movies and TV shows like 227, and you're like, it's like I designed this myself. So, and their horror movie well, not really horror movie, their B-movie selection, full moon features, it's stuff like you would have seen on USA's Up All Night. Their curation is great and it's on point. The advertising they do in the shows is as well done as any streaming app you'll see, because up in the top corner of your screen, when you're coming up on an ad break, it'll count you down. It'll say, ads coming in like 60 seconds. And then when you're actually on the ads, that counter changes to show you how much time is left in the advertising. It'll be like ad 1 of 3, total time left, 94 seconds. And okay, well, I got 90 seconds to go get a drink. So they do a really good job, and you can find it on a lot of devices. If you've not checked it out, I believe it would really be up your alley.
Yeah, I definitely think I'll give it a shot. Are the ads that you would typically see, like on something like Hulu?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, just almost like a standard television ad.
Right. And one of the things that it looks like they may have trouble sometimes getting a lot of different advertisers. The wife and I have been watching and ran into the situation where it'll have 3 ads and all 3 are the exact same one, just back to back to back. But beyond that, it's a pretty good platform.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to give that a try, because it sounds like something that, especially with the funding they're securing, they're going to make some type of an impact here pretty soon.
If they can get that funding. Yeah.
Right.
And this next story, I think Jason threw in just for me. It says, Think Factory Media and WWE Studios announced a partnership to produce a new reality program entitled Big Show vs. the World, A Giant Abroad. Each episode will feature WWE star The Big Show venturing into a new exotic area, navigating the difficulty of travel, because for people who don't know, he's over 7 feet tall, and the extreme and sometimes awkward situations with his signature self-deprecating sense of humor. No release date or network has been announced. Hey, WWE and Think Factory Media, we'll run it on the TRN YouTube channel. If you can't find nowhere else to do it, make it. We'll run it. And if we don't, I'm sure Tony would put it on the RetroDaze YouTube channel. The only thing is, if it's going to be on the TRN YouTube channel, they've got to work in a spot for Arsenio on the show. We got to have our boy Arsenio on there.
He at least needs to do the introduction.
Hey, I just had a great idea for a show. What if we sent Jason around the country and he's just showing off his trapper keeper to everybody? You think that would fly?
I don't know. It would have to be, it's got to be one heck of a trapper keeper. And from the pictures I've seen, it's pretty stellar, but I don't know.
I think the flaw is it's not an actual trapper keeper.
Oh, I see.
It's a binder finder.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a knockoff trapper keeper. So.
Yeah, Jason's a poser.
Maybe that would fly on Tubi. I don't know.
Well, it's something to think about.
Right.
And this next story, I don't believe is on your notes, but I'll put this one in since we were talking about WWE. Hulk Hogan wants one more WrestleMania match. In an interview with the LA Times last week, Hogan said that he can't live with himself knowing that his last match was with rival Impact Wrestling, and he wants to go out on his own terms at WrestleMania 36 next spring in his hometown of Tampa, Florida. He also said that he wants that match to be against Vince McMahon himself. Now, Hogan is 66 years old. Vince McMahon is pushing 75, I think. Do you see that as something that we may actually see at WrestleMania next year?
No, not unless they wheel them out in wheelchairs or something and let them do maybe arm wrestling. Maybe they should just arm wrestle over the top style.
Well, I think what would be more real, and listen, I've never been a Hulk Hogan fan, but who am I to tell somebody they can't do what they love anymore? If Vince was for it and wanted to put him on his program, then I say go do what makes you happy. But I think a more realistic possibility, instead of a one-on-one match like that, they should do what they do in a lot of these situations and maybe have each one of them pick a current star as a tag team partner. That way they can stand on the outside. They can come in and do a comedy spot or two. They can, tangle up for a few minutes here and there. But for the most part, the heavy lifting would be done by current superstars. But the fans like me and our age would still have that nostalgia thing at WrestleMania. It's Hulk Hogan one more time. I think in a situation like that, it wouldn't be offensive anyway.
No, I mean, like you said, let them, or let him especially, go out the way he wants to go out. He deserves it. But I don't know. I don't know how many people would actually tune in for it, expecting much. Maybe if they stuck him on top of a cage, sort of like the Undertaker and Mankind, maybe.
Well, Hogan is well past the point of having people buy the show to see him. But in the grand scheme of things, WrestleMania is going to sell regardless of who's on there or who's not. Hulk Hogan's an added bonus. If you're buying it for the show, then it's like, oh, hey, look, we got a Hulk Hogan match. So I think that's fine. In video game news, Stranger Things is coming to Rocket League video game on October 14th. You can earn candy corn currency to be used in the Haunted Hollows event store and purchase items like a Dustin hat topper, Starcourt wheels, which is, I'm guessing, for roller skates, and a Hawaiian Hopper car decal. And I don't know, I'm not familiar with Rocket League. I don't know if this is actual products you can buy for yourself or things you buy to use in the game. I have no point of reference for this.
These are in-game items. Although I would really love to have any of those things for my car in real life.
Yeah, the Starcourt wheels, I'm guessing, would be like from the skating rink or something. And my youngest is a little social butterfly, goes to the skating rink all the time. I maybe need to find me some of these Starcourt wheels. I am not an inline skate guy. I am, the old four-wheeler. And I told her, I said, I'm going to go with you sometime and I'm going to wear those skates. And she's like, no, you'll look weird. I'm like, no, I'm the quad father. Let me tell you what, I'll get out there and show them some stuff with those four-wheelers that they ain't ever seen before. I tried to get her to let me DJ her birthday party there a couple weeks ago, but she was not all about that idea. I'm like, come on. Y'all have a good time. It'd be like when I was a kid. It'd be like, all right, couple skate now, just couple skate,
Yeah, I spent plenty of evenings at the skating rink. We had one just at the right at the end of the road that I lived on, and I walked there every weekend and got to where I was pretty decent, but you'd always see those 2 or 3 guys who could just do everything, and you thought, man, what I wouldn't do to be able to pull off some of those tricks. But the good old days.
Well, we've got a few pieces of toy news today too. Funko Pops have a new exclusive vinyl set of Miami Vice Season 2 Crockett and Tubbs coming to Books A Million soon. Now, I'm not one who collects the Funko Pops, but that's one that I may search out and find to add to my little retro collection. And there's another new one that's not on this notes I seen last week. Elvira stretched out on her red couch. It's a bigger set of Funko Pops. So,
well, that would be kind of. Is that one of the the extra large They make these Funko Pops that are almost 3 or 4 times the size of a normal pop.
Well, I have not seen it in person. I've just seen it in photos online, so it didn't have anything in the photo to compare it to, so I really am not sure on that.
Okay.
And Playmobil, I used to love Playmobil toys, the old school Western themed, Indian themed sets, but Playmobil has revealed new Scooby-Doo and Back to the Future toys at New York Comic Con. The Scooby-Doo line will feature the entire gang and classic monsters plus the Mystery Machine van. Back to the Future toys will include several versions of Marty and Doc's dog Einstein, along with the iconic DeLorean time machine. Does that sound like something you would be interested in picking up?
I probably would, only because my kids have a few Playmobil toys, but the only problem would be if I bought them, I'd be like, no, you can't take them out of the package. Leave them in the... I want to display them on the shelf. You're like, what's the point?
Well, me personally, instead of spending money on those new toys, just for my personal taste, I would go back and buy the old toys that I loved growing up from Playmobil. I'd rather spend my money on eBay buying like the Fort McHenry playset or something like that. But that's just me. So
I wonder if they'll ever make like nostalgic properties for the Weebles. You remember the Weebles?
Oh yeah, Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down.
That's right, they sure don't. Yeah, I had a few of those when I was really young, and I'm just waiting for the day when I start seeing Hopper Weebles and 11 Weebles.
Well, that kind of toy, maybe not in the size they were originally presented, a little smaller. You could do a lot with those. They would make great little quarter machine toys. They would make collectibles kind of like the Monster in My Pocket and the Polly Pocket stuff. And you could do them with all these retro properties. You could do a lot with something like that.
Yeah, it seems like almost everything has already been done, but I haven't seen that. So we should start sending in some of these suggestions.
Yeah, I need somebody to contact about a whole lot of this stuff.
If there's just one person that you can contact about everything having to do with nostalgic toys.
Yeah. Well, that's going to wrap up Recurrent Events this week, and we'll be getting into the TRN time machine after this little break. I'm sure Jason's going to put something fun in between this and that. Maybe I'll have to send him something to put in between this and that. I don't know. But anyway, stay tuned. We'll be back. Tony and I are going to jump in the time machine where we're going to talk about old Halloween specials that we used to love on television. I ain't even going to say used to love. Heck, I still love them when I can find them.
That's right.
So, all right, we'll be back.
Hi there, guys and ghouls. It's me, Elvira, the Queen of Halloween. And this year I'm having my Halloween party right here on MTV at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific.
After Elvira shows you the weirdest, scariest videos ever made, the terror continues with Alice Cooper live in Detroit at midnight Eastern. Elvira at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific Time, followed by Alice Cooper in concert at midnight Eastern, 11 Central, 9 Pacific. A Halloween you'll remember, a Halloween you won't be able to forget on MTV.
That's when there's a Halloweenie.
They don't talk about it much in Whoville, but before he stole Christmas, the Grinch haunted Halloween. Watch Halloween is Grinch Night today at 4:30 on TNT.
All right, welcome back, and we are headed into the TRN Time Machine, which is sponsored, as always, here lately by RetroDaze, and I'm going to let you, Tony, hype whatever you want to hype for RetroDaze.org today.
Well, I'd say really the main thing to get out there at the moment is just we're going to be having our Halloween special. Every year we try to have a Halloween special at the site in the theater. And this year it's going to be related to the RD's Retro Detention show that we're doing on YouTube. So we've been working on that. Hopefully have everything done by the 25th when we're wanting to premiere that there in the theater so everybody can get together and just chat and watch it. And then we'll put it up on YouTube. after that.
And then we'll post it on the Retro Network after that.
All right.
Share it with everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's been fun so far to put together, and I haven't even actually got to Hoju's part yet for our team. So hopefully I can get that all together in time. It's always a big rush here toward the end of October when supposed to have all this stuff done and ready to go. So,
well, I know you scored a major coup with the special guest voice actor you have for that, and I'm so excited to see what you all do with that. I mean, you can tell people if you'd like. I don't think you're keeping it a surprise, but
no surprise. Yeah, John Kassir, he's known as the Crypt Keeper from the original Tales from the Crypt series, and so he is the voice for the Crypt Keeper in this special, and it was a lot of fun. He was very kind and generous to do that, and to do it so well. I mean, it's like he never stopped doing that voice. And he even actually did a little intro for a new Halloween tune that Mel Zorro has put together.
Oh my gosh, Mel Zorro is back.
That's
for
right.
People who don't know, Mel Zorro is Adam's alter ego, 80s icon rock star. I love everything. You know, if you and he had the time, RD's Retro Detention is one of the very best things on YouTube. And I ain't just saying that because I'm talking to you here live. It is so well done. The subject matter is so on point for my interest. I love it. But man, I would love to see some kind of Mel Zorro show on YouTube. If nothing else, like a special behind the music, like one-off special or something.
Do like a Spinal Tap type of mockumentary type of thing. That would be so perfect. Yeah, actually, I think the whole Mel Zorro persona was just meant for Halloween. So I was like, you need to do another song this year. And so he come up with something that was related to Tales from the Crypt. And when I heard it, I said, we need to get John to do the intro for this also, because it would just be so perfect. And so he agreed, and it sounds really good. So we're excited to put that out there also and let people enjoy it. It's a good tune, perfect for Halloween.
And you know, it never ceases to amaze me. I have seen several of the Halloween specials and Christmas specials through the years. It never ceases to amaze me all the different celebrity cameo voice work you get into these things. And I found myself in the past thinking, how did he get Mick Foley to do this? You know, or how did he's got the Hoff? He's got David Hasselhoff. How is this even possible?
Yeah, well, if I gave away my secrets, it would be so not special. So I keep it a secret just to keep that mystery.
Well, I'm not even asking you to spill the secret. I just much kudos, because it really, I mean, the specials are great as they are, but they just go so far above and beyond the normal level of something. And this is not demeaning in any way, but folks at our level who are creating content on the internet, for you to be able to pull in people like David Hasselhoff to work on your project is astounding. And it's just, you do such a good job with that, and just much appreciation and respect for being able to pull that off. And for people who have never experienced one of these specials at RetroDaze.org, Jason and I have talked about them here on the podcast. They're so well done. They're so much fun. And we're going to be talking about favorite Halloween specials here in a moment. Those have quickly, even though they're not created a long time ago, they are retrocentric. They are near the top of my list of favorite Halloween specials. And mostly because of the viewing environment, where, like you said, you go into the theater there at RetroDaze.org, and I mentioned this before, it's like doing a live watch on Facebook or something, but the group you're watching it with are all of the same mind frame. They're all retro-minded folks. They're all good people. And you're sitting around cracking jokes, you know, you're chatting along as it goes and enjoying the program together. And everybody needs to head over to RetroDaze.org and go ahead and find the theater in advance and bookmark it so you know where it is, and get signed up for the site so you can get into the theater and mark your calendar for hopefully the 25th and be a part of that this year. We want to see, we always have a big turnout anyway, but we want to see a massive turnout for this.
Yeah, and hopefully, let's crash the site, right? Let's crash it.
Yeah, well, maybe not that many people. Okay, everybody's last name, it starts with an even letter. You can come. Everybody else wait and watch it on YouTube. I don't want to crash the site.
Yeah, we'll just have to work it out with a lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate all the kind words, and that's we just do it for that reason, just so that everybody can get together and have a good time, and also kind of reconnect with, talking about the guest appearances and things, to reconnect with some of these stars that maybe they had forgotten about and get them involved. And you'd be surprised how many of these folks are willing, to do a little bit of voice work for something that they know is important to their fans. Once in a while, you'll get somebody who's they're either a little worried about what it might mean for their career, or whether they'll have some kind of copyright issues or whatnot. But almost always, they're more than willing to do something special like that for the fans. And so it's a lot of fun, and it's nice to know that they appreciate the fans that have grown up with them and still enjoy the work they do. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, you do a great job with it. But right now, let's talk about some of our favorite Halloween specials from back in the day. And before we do that, this one is for the working man. So, which I am one of the working men.
That's right. When aren't you working? That's the question.
Well, yeah, but a lot of what I do is labor of love, not necessarily the actual job I go to. Well, I don't know. I guess it is too. It supports and feeds the family, so that's a labor of love. But most of the work I do outside of there is certainly a labor of love in doing everything with the Retro Network and bringing, you and I have talked about this before, I just want to share these stories with everybody.
Right.
And I want to hear everybody else's story. And it's hard to get somebody to tell you their story unless you're telling them yours. So,
right.
But when we're talking about favorite Halloween specials, I'm not, at least the ones I've got in mind, I'm not just limiting to actual Halloween specials, because I had some things that pop into mind that were, they're all Halloween centric, but maybe event television or TV episodes, maybe is another way to say it, but not all are Halloween specials per se.
I kind of had a mix in mind of, like you said, event television, not necessarily episodes of television series. I kind of left those out, mainly because those aren't shows that you would get to watch every year. These were either movies or the television specials that you could always count on showing up in one form or another somewhere. And so as we go through these, that's where I'm focused.
Well, hit me up with one. What's one that you fondly remember?
One which maybe not everybody knows about, which is Night Out. If you've heard or seen that one.
I actually have a DVD copy of that you sent me.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, then, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That special, it was on for several years when I was young, and it was so odd to me. I think it's the animation. The story is a little different too. The animation, it's from a company in Canada. I think it was made in the late 70s, maybe. Mm-hmm. And of course, you've got Gilda Radner, who's this witch, and she's kind of bored with her life, and so she looking for something to spice it up. She ends up changing these children into monsters: Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster, and a ghost. And so that's kind of an adventure of those four trying to escape townspeople. The townspeople are upset that these monsters are in town, and so they're chasing them all over the place. And it's just a lot of fun, but it's, again, the animation style is so different that it just stood out to me. Every year I didn't even know what the name of it was as a kid. I was just like, I hope that one weird cartoon comes on, because that's just so neat and odd and peculiar. And I guess it's actually a sequel to another special that I think was maybe centered around Christmas or winter.
Huh.
It's actually a sequel to that. Some of the characters, I guess, carry over from the first film into this. But yeah, you just have to see it and look it up and watch it if you haven't seen it before. And when you see the characters, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just so odd. The characters so oddly drawn and animated, and it's something that sticks with you. And it definitely stuck with me through all my childhood years. It became something that, just out of the sheer curiosity, sheer oddness, became kind of a must-see for me.
And I had totally forgotten about Witch's Night Out when I was picking features to put in the TRN Halloween Theater. I'm going to have to go see if that's on YouTube and add it if it is. And you mentioned turn one of those kids into the Wolfman. And further on down the line, he became president and starred in his own movie that is now on the Halloween channel on Roku.
So that's maybe a sequel. It's like a spinoff.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorites, I don't know how many people will remember it, but was the Tom and Jerry's TBS Funhouse Halloween special. Back in the late 80s, before I had cable, I'd go to my grandparents' house who had cable, and TBS used to show every morning and every afternoon. It was called Tom and Jerry's TBS Funhouse, and it was a mixture of Tom and Jerry shorts, also with Looney Tunes shorts. So they done these specials for Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. I want to say they were like an hour and a half long. And in between each cartoon, they had these two preteens doing these segments in between, telling corny Halloween jokes or telling some different history of the holiday or something. And these do not exist on YouTube. Well, the whole special don't exist on YouTube. You can find, there is a couple of videos that combines all the bumpers from the two kids from the Halloween special that you can watch all of those. And you can find information online on which cartoons were featured, but I know it was like the Scaredy Cat, Tom and Jerry. You had the hair-raising hair, Bugs Bunny tail. You ended up getting 5 or 6 cartoons, and they mixed Popeye in with that too. It just seemed like when I got cable, that was the thing I wanted to watch the most, was TBS Tom and Jerry's Funhouse, and especially those specials. And I know through some commenting stuff you done, when Jason and I talked about our harvest festivals, fall festivals at school when I was young, it almost always lined up that Tom and Jerry Halloween special came on the day of our harvest festival on Saturday. And it backed right up against the time it was to leave. So for several years in a row there, I got to watch the Halloween Tom and Jerry special and then immediately leave and go to the harvest festival. It was one of the best days of the Halloween season when I was young. And
so like Halloween overload for you.
Yeah, well, but it was one day a year. It was just that one day. And the Thanksgiving and Christmas specials still rank on, if we were doing a list of specials for those holidays, it would be up near the top of both of those as well.
Now, in that special, did they air any of the same shorts that they would show? You mentioned Looney Tunes. In like the Bugs Bunny Halloween or Halloween. Did they have any of the, like the witch segment where he's, where Bugs is trying to avoid getting cooked in the pot by the witch? And... Yeah,
that was usually one. And the one with the big red monster, hair-raising hair, it was always in it. And there was, the Popeye cartoon was something about being stuck in a haunted house, some old episode. And then there were a couple of Tom and Jerry's. They always showed I think there was a short Casper cartoon they put in there. I can't remember what all the lineup was, but it was a nice mix of all these different cartoon properties, plus mixed with the bumpers. Yeah, and they would air it multiple times in the season too. I want to say it came out in either 86 or 87 for the first time, and it ran up to about 91. May have been the last year they showed them. But
I'll have to look that up. I don't know that I've ever seen that. I do know that Tom and Jerry had a... I don't know if it was necessarily called a Halloween special, but it was Halloween-centered, airing, and I don't know if they if that's the same thing or if it's different from this. I'll have to look that
It's
up.
most likely different because I guess where Ted Turner owned all those cartoons, the Tom and Jerry's TBS Funhouse that was on every day was a mix of the properties Tom and Jerry, Looney Tunes, Droopy, and Popeye. So for that hour that it was on, you got these different shorts from all of that, and then they just combined any of the spooky ones they could find and made it a special.
Sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, I loved it. I've never checked Daily Motion for it. It may be on there complete. I don't know. But I know you can find the bumper segments all in one compilation video on YouTube. So what else you got?
Well, one of my other ones probably that I would look for each year, I had a tough time choosing because I wanted to kind of keep it to 5 of the classics that I always look forward to, and then kind of add in some of the ones that I added to my viewing after I got out of high school. But have you ever seen the Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that was, I think, one of those shows that I would watch. I knew it came on during the Halloween season, but I wasn't always, well, I don't know that I was ever actually looking for it. I would just happen upon it during the Halloween season almost every year, and sometimes not even during the Halloween season, but it had the tone of it's very much a Halloween special material.
Mm-hmm.
And of course you have Ichabod Crane, the Headless Horseman. It's one of those animated shows that Disney put out that it doesn't hold back a lot. It doesn't really sugarcoat the story of the Headless Horseman. You know, at the end, Ichabod is, you don't know where he's at, if he survived or not. They just kind of leave it ambiguous. And,
yeah.
Instead of always throwing up some kind of happy ending that never occurred in the actual story like they tend to do. So it kind of was a little eerie to me as a kid.
Right. It did have a much, I ain't gonna say darker, but it was a spookier theme than most other things Disney done at the time.
Right. Yeah, it just kind of threw me off because you think Disney, you think there's always a happy ending to everything. And with this, it was really different in that regard. And so it kind of, I think that really appealed to me more because of that, just for the fact that you don't really know if did he survive or didn't he? Did the Headless Horseman take him out? And so as a kid, I always wondered that. Of course, you find out the true story, how the original story ends later on in adulthood, and you kind of know what's going on. But at that time, it was so mysterious.
Yeah.
And you can't just go on the internet and look it up. So talking about growing up in the late 70s, early 80s, and into the late 80s, and I didn't read a lot, so I wasn't going to go read the book. I mean, I'm like Jason. I like pictures with my words. I ain't going to read no book.
Yeah. I remember being in grade school. They used to show the Ichabod Crane segment of that every year near Halloween. They'd roll the TV into class, and you'd watch that. And that's just something in the lower grades, like first grade, second grade, third grade. That was a yearly tradition right there. And that was really well done. I still have the VHS copy of Ichabod and Mr. Toad.
Nice.
Yeah, that my wife had. I kind of inherited it from her when we got married.
Well, yeah, you can just tell her if she ever wants it back, just say, I lost it. I don't know where it's at.
Well, when we were talking about getting married, it was kind of 50-50, and then I found out she had that, and that's what kind of helped seal the deal.
All right.
Another one that I really liked was, well, let me take that back. I didn't used to really like it. I didn't know it existed. And it took me to be an adult with a retro mind to really appreciate. And that's the Elvira's 1986 MTV Halloween special.
Oh, yeah.
Growing up, Elvira was an icon of Halloween. And, of course, I didn't have MTV in the days when this was going on. But now, They used to have 100% complete show with commercials and everything on YouTube. Now there's like a 55-minute version with some of the music videos gone. But it used to be like a 3-hour special where it's all these spooky horror-themed music videos, and you got Elvira doing her bumper segments in between, just all kinds of Halloween-y type stuff. And it was a good way, when I first discovered it years ago, for a couple of years, it was what I'd done on Halloween night. It was fire up on YouTube, the Elvira Halloween special, and watch it and enjoy it. And it's right now in the TRN Halloween Theater. Folks can go watch the footage that is left on YouTube of it. I don't know if you ever had any experience with it, but
now she in that special, does she have one or two songs that she actually performs in? And
I do believe so.
Yeah, so it's entertaining just for that.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think you're talking about the YouTube footage that's available. I have tried for the past couple of years to find better footage, but I don't know if anybody's listening has any higher quality footage of that, or anybody that has like a recording of anything of it. But if you go on YouTube to try and find footage, it's just it's not the greatest quality. It's hard to find anything decent from that special, at least in my experience. Now, maybe one of these days somebody will upload a better quality version of it. I'd like to watch the whole thing, like you said, the whole 3-hour experience. But what's up there now is just, I don't know, it's kind of barely viewable, really.
Yeah.
It's not, the quality's so poor.
Yeah, the quality is poor, but the nostalgia factor can make you ignore a little bit of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, what else you got?
Well, one that I'm sure you've seen, the Halloween is Grinch Night.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, you always associate the Grinch with Christmas. And so to see, I forget what age I was when I actually first saw Halloween is Grinch Night, but I remember thinking, man, it's weird to see the Grinch celebrating Halloween. I didn't even know this existed. But it became something where I had to watch it. Probably I wanted to see that more than How the Grinch Stole Christmas, because I think the characters were more appealing to me. And you had the Grinch. He's of course trying to basically smash everybody's fun on Halloween. He's trying to take over Halloween, and but I think probably the appealing thing about it, you had a couple of musical numbers in there that to me were more memorable than from How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I'm trying to think of the name of one tune in particular where he's coming down the hill and his dog's pulling him, and he's singing a tune, and it stuck in my head to the point where I was trying to find a way to catch it one night and record that song off onto a cassette tape so that I could just listen to it whenever I wanted to.
And make your own single.
Right, yeah, like a single. But I could never catch it, and whenever I would actually get a chance to watch it, it would just be on I'd be flipping through channels and it'd be on. So I never was able to do that, but it was just kind of memorable to me for the music, and just for the fact that it's the Grinch, and you put him in a situation that's kind of not what you associate with him.
Right.
He's kind of a Christmas figure, but to throw him into a Halloween environment is just so unique and fun to me.
You associate him with Christmas just because that's what we were presented, but the Grinch is actually one of the perfect Halloween type characters in general.
Right, yeah, he's just kind of tailor-made for a Halloween special like that. And actually, I really thought that once I found that special, I was going to end up happening upon an Easter special, a Valentine's Day special. And I just thought there must be Grinch specials for every holiday, apparently. But come to find out, that's not really the case. But out of the two, I would choose Halloween is Grinch Night over How the Grinch Stole Christmas, me personally.
Well, I'm not saying I disagree with you, but I believe the majority of people would think you're crazy.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'm kind of used to not always being the person whose views are shared by others.
Well, I don't
Even in my own
know.
house.
I don't know why anybody wants to be like everybody else. That's no fun.
right.
You need to be yourself.
That's right.
Well, I'm going to go, I talk a lot of wrestling on here. WCW's old Halloween Havoc wrestling shows, in the early days of them, were so much fun for Halloween-minded folks. And they started in 1989. And that first year, when the pay-per-view come on the air, there was just the spooky music and the dark lighting, and they had the Thunderdome cage match. And when that Thunderdome cage came down and you see these chains and stuff hanging from it, you're like, what in the world is this?
What am I in for?
Yeah. And they kept the Halloween theme going through the years. At Halloween 90, they changed the ring ropes and the mat to a blood red color for a one-time thing. In 91, they had Rick Rude debuted. He came over from WWF. He debuted under a mask as the WCW Halloween Phantom. And that year, they also had the Chamber of Horrors cage match where to win, it was 2 teams of 4. To win, you had to strap an opponent into the electric chair and pull the switch. So
I remember that.
So while not being the most actual sporting event type content, it was really cool and unique to see a wrestling company back then embrace the concept of Halloween and build an entire pay-per-view special around, Halloween. And as a wrestling lover, that was just the greatest thing when I was that age.
And I don't think the WWF did they ever do anything similar to that?
Well, not necessarily a pay-per-view, but the third Saturday Night's Main Event back from 1986 had a running Halloween theme throughout it. It's like all the WWF wrestlers were having a Halloween party in the backstage area while the matches were going on. So in between the match segments, they would show the Bobbing for Apple contest where Bobby Heenan was choking on an apple and stuff, and just a bunch of different little skits, and all the wrestlers were in costumes backstage. And so they done that, which we are going to have. I've actually had a review written for that. That'll be dropping on TRN late next week, I believe it is. So you'll be able to get all the details, all the skinny on that episode of Saturday Night's Main Event soon.
Yeah, I couldn't recall anything similar to. I mean, with the WCW, they would go all out on those Halloween Havocs. I mean, the whole presentation was just perfect for Halloween. And like you said, they always had these gimmicks that would outdo the next every year. And the whole electric chair thing was just that was crazy. Now, was there an event? Let's see, where they ended up in a coffin?
There have been a lot of casket matches through the years. WWF was kind of the pioneer of that with The Undertaker. That was his big gimmick match he was losing matches against somebody, and it would build up to the casket match, and you knew he was winning at that point.
Yeah, right. He wasn't going to lose the casket match.
Right.
I can't remember if that was something that ended up in a Halloween special or not. But I remember there was, I think not that long ago, I had a Halloween Havoc. I think it was maybe 93, and it was on VHS and still sealed. And I had it in my cart on eBay, and never did pull the trigger on it. But I don't think I had ever seen that, and I thought, well, it's brand new, still sealed VHS. I mean, you got to go for it, right?
Right, yeah.
But I didn't. So I don't know if that's one that I should have actually picked up or not, but one of these days I'm going to catch it.
Well, let's get one more in here and see, then we'll move on. But you got any others that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm going to guess that probably everybody has this on their list, but the one that I make sure to watch every year, and I make everybody here watch whether they want to or not, it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
Ah, yes.
Now, if there was ever, a special that you knew was going to be on, it was that. So I always made sure to watch it every year. And even though it's kind of synonymous with Halloween now, everybody watches it. Back then, it was just like such a huge deal to me, and it still is really to me. Well, maybe not necessarily to the rest of the family here, but they enjoy it. But it's like something hallowed and special to me. It's like just the pinnacle of Halloween. So I always save it for like maybe the last few days right up leading into Halloween or trick or treat. But everybody, I'm sure, knows all about that special.
Yeah.
Now, I did have one other one, which is probably not far behind, and that's Garfield's Halloween Adventure, which I actually didn't start watching until probably getting close to, I was getting close to my teens before I even heard about it, but I always liked Garfield, so I thought, well, this is going to be gold here.
Yeah.
And of course, once I watched it, that became a yearly thing for me.
Yeah, I discovered, I don't want to say discovered, but I was always a big fan of the Garfield Christmas story thing, special episode.
Yeah.
The Halloween, I didn't discover the Halloween and Thanksgiving one until a few years after the Christmas. Maybe they didn't make those until a few years after they made the Christmas one, but the Thanksgiving is the weakest of the bunch. Halloween would be my second favorite because that Garfield Christmas episode is just timeless. But it is a really fun Halloween special. The Garfield Nody dressed up and stuff. It puts you in the Halloween mood. And going back to the Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown, it's amazing that Charles Schultz and the Peanuts characters can have two mega iconic holiday specials with that and the Christmas.
Yeah, to me, I mean, they are, like I said, they're must watch for both of those holidays. And even for the Thanksgiving, I put it right up there with the other two. Just, I don't know. I think mainly because that whole Thanksgiving dinner, every year I'm wondering like what the cost is this year. Some people always like to calculate what would the cost of the Charlie Brown Thanksgiving dinner be this year. And so I always look that up and see if the price has changed on it. But just the whole goofy popcorn and jelly beans and all that stuff, the idea of that for Thanksgiving cracked me up. But all three of those specials, it's crazy how they kind of have become part of everybody's experience with the holidays, and to the point where you just, like you said, it's something that everybody takes part in. Everybody at some point is going to be enjoying them, and I kind of wish, I know they still do air the specials, was on ABC or one of the channels still airs, or maybe it's CBS that will still air them, maybe a week or two before whatever holiday it might be. It's not like it used to be where we could, you knew everybody was watching at the same time, so it was kind of a big event.
Right.
Which kind of takes a little bit away from it, but it's still something that's pretty special.
Well, one of the features I am intending to write this December is the history and how it came to be that Peanuts Christmas for the Charlie Brown Christmas, because it's got a fascinating backstory about how the studios pushed back against some of the content in it, like the Bible reading and stuff, and how Charles Schultz fought for actual kid actors to do the voices and things. It's really, really fascinating how that even made it to air. Right. And how much CBS didn't expect much out of it. And here it is, all these years later, it's still one of the bigger things on television.
Right. Yeah, it's a pretty incredible that something like that can kind of just take on a whole life of its own, and almost to the point where it's just like ingrained in the holiday for everybody. I don't think there's a person on earth that goes through a holiday not knowing what one of those at least one of those specials.
Right.
But yeah, those are my like as far as classics go, that was basically rounds out my grouping of specials that I always wanted to make sure I watched. Like I said, later on I started discovering specials that I didn't get to really see at all when I was a kid, even though they were on some channel, like the Mr. Boogedy movie. That was, I had a crush on Christy Swanson when I was young. So
well, who didn't?
She was in that. I missed out on that completely. Let's see what else. There was the claymation comedy of horrors with, I think, Will Vinton created that. The guy that was involved with California Raisins, the claymation style animation, and he did a special claymation special. And when I first saw that, I thought, man, how did I miss this? Where has this been? Because I don't remember ever seeing it on any channel. And I happened across it because I would have tuned in right away.
Yeah, I know. I remember they made a big deal out of the Claymation Christmas special, but I never remembered seeing any hype for a Halloween one.
No, it just kind of flew under the radar, for me anyways. Mad Monster Party was another. That was a Rankin Bass, stop motion animated special, and that's another that I would have, had I seen it, I mean, I would have latched onto that right away, just like with the Rudolph special and the Santa Claus is coming to town. Anything Rankin Bass, I was all for growing up, and that when I first saw it, which I was an adult when I first saw that special, and I thought, man, I missed this. I wish I could have caught it in my youth at some point. And stuff like that you happen across. It's kind of like finding gold.
Yeah.
Man, look what I found.
Well, as I like to refer to it, I call it retro archaeology.
That's exactly right. You find a buried treasure that you had no idea even existed. Of course, since I started finding some of these specials that I missed out on, I did a deep dive and made sure I found out everything I could about what was out at the time, and so that I made sure not to miss them again, and pick out the ones that I really wanted to make an annual thing, an annual viewing of for my family.
Yeah, a lot of these I'll watch every year. Well, I ain't gonna say a lot of them, a few of them. Halloween has always been like my third favorite holiday behind Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I'm a big Christmas fan. You know this. I have a full collection of stuff either downloaded or I've purchased on DVD or traded for DVD burn-offs of old VHS tapes. I could spend every night from Thanksgiving till Christmas Day just full of old Christmas stuff. But these Halloween specials, as I get older and see how much my kids enjoy Halloween, then I pull up more of these old things. I'm like, okay, well, you like Halloween, you got to see this. We're going to watch this together. And I think late tonight, my oldest and I are going to be watching some of the old Roseanne Halloween episodes, because they always done a great job with those, and she'll really enjoy the way she's into Halloween and stuff. I think she'll really enjoy that.
Yeah, a lot of good episodes to choose from there. And it seemed like she was big into doing something special for Halloween. And they usually
the best episodes of the season.
Right.
Well,
like
and
Simpsons Treehouse of Horror type of a thing, where you just kind of look forward. You knew if something big was coming.
Yeah, and I was just about to say, if you folks are enjoying this talk on these Halloween specials, last week on RetroNetwork.com, we had a feature drop from Brandon where he ranked the top 10 Simpsons Treehouse of Horror tales, and they've been a lot of them. And this coming week, as you're listening to this podcast is dropping on Tuesday. Tomorrow on Wednesday, Tim from Old School 80s is dropping his piece, the top 10 great old retro Halloween specials post feature that he done for us. And you mentioned the Mad Monster Party. It is on his list. So he was fond of it too. And it is a great list, and people should go check it out. And a lot of these we've talked about, and some of the ones that are going to be on that in that feature he's doing, are you can find in the TRN Halloween Theater. If you go to the retronetwork.com, over on the right-hand side of the page, you have in the sidebar on the right-hand side, you'll see the links to the theater, and it revolves around each time you visit the site. You'll see some different selections. Some will be recurring, but you can click on the theater button there and see a list of all of them. And Jason and I have been talking about, or I've been plugging the iconic Paul Lynde Halloween special from 1976 for people who've not seen it. I didn't mention it on this list today because I didn't want to go in depth on it, and I'll explain why here in just a little while. But that's going to do it for the TRN Time Machine this week, sponsored by RetroDaze.org. Make sure you go over to the RetroDaze YouTube channel and check out Adam and Tony's work there with the RD's detention. Still, like I said, I'll say it again, one of my favorite things on YouTube right now. It is so great.
Awesome.
You guys do a fantastic job with it. And I'm always, as good as the episodes are to watch, I think it's the anticipation that I enjoy the most of what are they going to do next, and waiting all week to see what, it's like, holy crap, look what it is.
Right. Yeah. I always look forward to when he, like I said, when I was on last time, when he sends the raw video over, it's always something new, and there's always something in there that catches me off guard, and I just crack up. It's hard to work on when you just keep laughing over and over again. People are wondering what in the world's going on back there.
Yeah, I'm sure Jason may have the same effect when he's editing this podcast today.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
But we're going to give Jason a chance to do his thing. We're going to take another quick break before we come back with the wrap up. So stay tuned.
It's that witching time of year again, when spooks and goblins roam the earth and strange and funny things start to happen. Hi, I'm Josh Jarvis. And I'm Audra Lee. And it's time for the Tom and Jerry Halloween Special.
In a small, secluded blacksmith shop, hidden deep in the mountains, three strange men work around the clock to complete the biggest challenge of their careers, Thunderdome. For wrestling's toughest, the steel cage is home, but there's never been one like the Thunderdome. There's no way in and no way out. It's Halloween Havoc's most frightening bout. 6 tons of steel and electrified. The only way to win is the Terminator outside. For Funk and Muda, Sting and Flair, these blacksmiths have made sure they'll stay right there. It's 30 feet high, it's 30 feet wide. There's no place to run, no place to hide. There's no way to win, only to lose. And how you do that depends on the Terminator you use. It's Halloween Havoc and the Thunderdome. If you want to take part, best pick up your phone.
All right, it's just about time to get out of here. The first episode of the TRN podcast hosted by me, Mickey. I don't think it's went too bad. What do you think?
I think it's probably been the best episode really ever of any podcast ever.
Okay, I didn't want to come out and say that because I'm a humble guy, but I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and I'm totally unbiased when I'm saying that, so it's got to be true.
Yeah, it must be. Well, speaking of great things, this past week over at the RetroNetwork.com, we had some great Halloween-themed content drop. We talked about Adam earlier. He done a feature for us, 10 retro Halloween movies for everyone, where he broke down 10 different categories. Like if you're introducing a younger person to their first horror movie, this is where you may want to go because, it's less gore, it's this and that, it's more fun than scary. And he done all these categories for each type of person on your list, and a lot of positive feedback on that post last week. And I mentioned earlier Brandon's top 10 Treehouse of Horror Tales. It dropped last week. And hey, I done another video last week where my daughters and I sampled, so you don't have to if you don't want to, the 5 best pieces of Halloween junk food for 2019. And that zombie flavored Skittle is nasty. Word of warning.
I watched that video, and I was going to ask you if you could describe the flavor. What would you say?
I was bound and gagged with one of my own sweaty socks one time. I would put it close to that.
Nah, that's pretty bad.
Jason sent me a message with a picture of the zombie Skittles. He bought some. He said he was inspired. I'm hoping maybe he films it and we get a video from those folks too.
Well,
and if so, I'll put it up on the site this week. But also coming this week on the RetroNetwork.com, I mentioned Tim's top 10 old school Halloween TV specials will be dropping on Wednesday. Our essay contest winner. I was inspired by you with the essay contest you do at RetroDaze. We hosted one at, well, as you know, at the Retro Network. And our winner, Jeff Sheldon, accepted the invitation and has joined the Retro Network. And he has his next feature ready to go this week on Coca-Cola's Monsters of the Gridiron promotion they done back in the early 90s. Do you ever remember seeing that?
I do, and I'm kind of looking forward to reading that because they had some pretty neat promotions with those the Monsters of the Gridiron.
Well, it had totally escaped either my memory or my attention back in the day because I had no knowledge of this. And I was editing the piece and I sent him a message like, man, this is great. I never even knew this existed. This is fantastic. So, my new weekly column on the RetroNetwork.com, it drops every Monday. By the time you hear this, it's already live on the site. And kind of the lead story of that column this week is Halloween at McDonald's through the years. I'm sure a lot of people will remember the stuff I've gotten there. This is a big one coming this week. Our great friend here, Tony, at RetroDaze, a lot of times does goodie packs. And this year he's got some Halloween goodie packs. And he was very generous and sent myself and Jason one. And when I wrap up this podcast here with Tony, my oldest and I are going to do an unboxing video that we're going to turn into an episode of the Retro Rewind Show coming to the TRN this week. And I believe we're doing some kind of giveaway with one. Is that right?
Yeah, there's one that I had set aside in case guys wanted to do some type of a giveaway for it. And there's a lot of neat stuff in there. It's always fun to try and find all these items that maybe you don't quite remember, and maybe they'll spark a memory here and there for people. So, if the winner of that, maybe you'll get some memories come back to you that you'd totally forgotten.
Well, so keep your eye on our YouTube channel, Retro Network's YouTube channel, and the RetroNetwork.com. When that video drops, it'll be dropping Wednesday afternoon on that would be October 16th, Wednesday, October 16th. You'll check out the video post for details on how you can win your own Halloween goodie pack. And I got to say, I got that early this past week, and I have been just chomping at the bit to tear into that thing and see what all's in it. But I knew I wanted to do it at a time where I could film it and make a video of it. So
right.
I'm going to scratch that itch in a big way here in just a little while and see what all is in there.
Well,
and folks, you need to watch that, and you need to enter for your chance to win. You're not going to want to miss this. I've got numerous goodie packs from Tony through the years from RetroDaze. Every one of them have been fantastic. Every one of them have been loaded with nostalgia and retro goodness. I think my favorite all time was probably the superhero goodie pack.
Oh, yeah. We do themed ones outside of the holidays. And yeah, there's been a few through the years that were fun to put together. I think I have more fun like putting these together than people actually receiving them. I get more joy out of putting these together, knowing that somebody's going to open this up and think like, wow, I forgot all about this, and I never was able to get one of these, or I can't find this, and just to know that somebody's getting a smile on their face with all this, nostalgia overload is the funnest thing about it. And the superhero one, there were some pretty good items in there that I stumbled upon, and I thought, man, if I could have had this in my youth, or found something like this in my youth, it would have been outstanding. So it's always fun to crack one open, but it's more fun to put them together, I think.
Well, and we've also got more Halloween themed fun coming up on the RetroNetwork.com next week that I haven't mentioned, and a little something outside of the Halloween theme. On Thursday the 17th marks the 30th anniversary of the earthquake that interrupted the 1989 World Series. And Tim, again from oldschool80s.com, has put together a fantastic look back at that day and the events surrounding that and the aftermath. So people want to check that out. Be sure to check out the Retro Network Halloween Theater. Be sure to go over to YouTube and check out RD's Detention on the RetroDaze YouTube channel. And speaking of Adam, he and the Sequel Quest guys will be back later this week for their roundtable review of The Joker. Or is it just Joker? I think it's just Joker is the name of the movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been getting a lot of rave reviews. but I put more stock in what Adam and Jeremy and the guys say than any other critics I read. So I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say about it before I decide if I want to check it out or not.
You and I both.
And next week here on the Retro Network podcast, Jason will be back, unless you folks write in and tell us you'd just rather it be the Mickey and Tony show. Then we'll try to work something out. No, I can't say that. As much as I love having Tony on, I greatly miss doing this with Jason. He's become a great friend in a short time, and I do miss doing this show with him. But next week is the Retro Network podcast Halloween special. So get your silly string out, because it's an all-Halloween edition of the show, capped off by Jason and myself doing a deep dive on the iconic Paul Lynde Halloween special. And, you know, we're using that to tinker with the format for one of our new possible exclusive Patreon podcasts that we'll be doing. So I urge everybody to head over to the retronetwork.com, go to the TRN Halloween Theater. You'll find the Paul Lynde Halloween special. It's complete. Try to watch that sometime in the next 7 days, so you won't be left behind when Jason and I are going through all the different segments in it, and you can keep up and be able to share your thoughts on it too after the fact. So, Tony, you got anything else you want to pimp out here or plug, or any shout out you want to give?
Well, just to you guys for having me back on. It's a lot of fun, and it's always nice to listen to both of you, but it's even better to be able to conversate with you. So it'll be nice to have Jason back on and listen to you guys again. But maybe one of these days I'll be able to join both of you, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh, well, we'll definitely have you back on. But, you know, the reason we don't have you on more often is because you show us up every time you're on, and we can't, you know, you make us look bad.
You must be thinking of somebody else.
No, you're just being humble. You make us look bad. But no, I certainly want to have you back on soon, like for every holiday, for Thanksgiving and Christmas at least, because I know you and I have a lot of similar experiences, and I always like talking to you about those things. So we'll try to set that up coming up soon. But in the meantime, everybody out there can connect with us on social media at TRN Social on most of your apps. I'm not sure what our MySpace username is, but maybe it's TRN Social. You can also follow our personal accounts at RD80s and at Yesterdayville. And what's the RetroDaze social links? I know right now you've really been pushing the Facebook page and the new RetroDaze Facebook group, which I'm always thankful that you let me post in there.
Yeah, actually, the Facebook page has been really the main place as far as social media to post all the interesting things going on. But my wife has kind of taken over, and she started an Instagram page, so might look that up and let her know she's doing a good job with that. I'm not familiar with Instagram at all, so she's like, well, I'll do this for you. So I wasn't going to stop her. So she's kind of in charge of that now.
Well, I seen
Instagram.
Yeah, I seen that, and I followed. I guess it was just yesterday I followed. I'll have to get on there and like you said, let her know how great the page looks and give her some encouragement and stuff, so she knows she ain't just wasting her time.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll appreciate it.
All right. Well, man, thank you so much for coming on and helping me out here. When Jason was going to let me do this show, I was thinking of who could I get, and I couldn't think of anybody better than you to come on and talk about all this old stuff with. So thank you very much for agreeing to do so.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
It certainly has, and we'll have you back soon. And everybody have a good week. And hey, forget the normal outro. Let's see if Jason can pump us in some great classic rock as we get out of here. But until next time, we'll see you.
Thanks for listening to the Retro Network Podcast channel. Make sure you listen to all of the great podcasts we have to offer right here in this feed. If you enjoy our channel, please give us a 5-star rating in your favorite podcast app. Connect with us on social media by following TRN Social, and visit the RetroNetwork.com website for your daily retro fix. Come back next week for another episode of the Retro Network Podcast.